Hi, in the last class we looked at the Coulomb's law, which helps us in getting a forces between a 2-point charges. Now here in this session we will see how to calculate a net force on a charge due to a group of point charges. Now here these charges can be arranged in a straight line, or they can be distributed in a 2-dimensionals or in a 3-dimensionals. And here if you want to know the force on any given charge due to all the other charges available in a system, say consisting of n charges, then here a Coulomb's law is not enough to answer this question, because Coulomb's law gives you the forces between a 2-point charges. So here we have a principle of superposition which helps us in getting a net force on any given charge due to a group of point charges inside a system. So now let's see what this principle of superposition says. So here, suppose if you have a system, let this be my system consisting of say n charges. So let this be my a QR charge, Q2, Q3, Q4, like that many more charges, and let me show the n charge. Let this be my Qn charge. Now here what we know is that when you have a system consisting of n charges, each of these charges will interact with other charge. For example, if you just take an of Q1, Q1 will interact with Q2. They will experience some force on each other. Same way this Q1 and Q3 will start interacting with each other. Again, force of attraction or a repulsion between them. And like that also for the n charges. In the same way, you will see a force between this Q2 and Q3, Q2 and Q4 and Qn. And like that, this will go on for all the n charges. Now, what is the principle of superposition says, or the basic property of this principle is that the force between the any two charges, for example, let's say we are interested in getting a total force on this charge Q1 due to all the charges available over here. So the basic property of this principle is that the forces between this any two charges. Now we know that there will be a force on this Q1 due to this charge Q2. So what it says is that the force between any two charges will not get affected due to the presence of these other charges. Alright, so here this will experience some force, say vector F1, 2. The force on 1 due to the second charge. So this is not getting affected. Okay, so here in the same way, let's say Q3 will also will exert some force on this charge Q1. So I can say that this is the force on 1 due to the 3. Now here when you look at this, the interaction between these two charges, this force will not get affected due to the presence of Q2, Q4 or else a Qn charge. Like that this continues. So here let this be the force on the charge 1 due to the fourth charge, and like that for many more charges, and let me show it for the nth charge. So this is the nth charge. Force on 1 due to the n charge. Now here you see a forces exerted on this charge Q1, right? And these are your vectors. So we can apply the addition of the vectors and I can get a total force. A total force on charge Q1, I can say that the total force on charge 1 is nothing but, I can say the addition of the force 1, 2, 1 on due to the second charge, plus the force on 1 due to the third charge, plus 1 on due to the fourth charge, and like that it will go on till the n charge. Now what the principle of superposition states that is this: the total force on any given charge inside a system is equal to the vector sum of all the forces that is exerted on it due to the other charges available in a system. So that is the principle of superposition says. Now let's apply this principle of superposition and a Coulomb's law to a system consisting of multiple charges, and let's try to calculate a net force experienced by any given charge in that system due to the other charges available in that system. Now let's consider a system consisting of three charges. Say a charge Q1, a charge Q2 and a charge Q3. Now let me choose my origin O somewhere here, and let this be my position vector of this charge Q1 from this origin O, and let me call this as my vector R1. In the same way, I can show a position vector for this charge Q2, and let me call this as my vector R2, and also for the charge Q3, so which is my vector R3. Now what we know is that if we have charges in a system, they will all interact with each other. Now here in this case, I'll be choosing the charge Q1 for an example. So let me choose a charge Q1 where I'm going to calculate a net force on this charge due to the other charges available in the system. Now if suppose this charge Q2, Q3 and Q1, all the charges are like charges, in that case this Q1 will experience some force on it due to this charge Q2 in a direction like this, vector f of 1 on due to 2. And here if you want to know the distance of separation between these two charges, I can write this as my vector R12, which is nothing but vector of R1 minus vector R2. Now if you know the vectors addition, suppose if you have two vectors, say vector A and vector B, and if you want to add both this vector, what we do is that a parallel shifting of any one of the vector in such a way that the head of the one vector touches the tail of the other vector, and then you draw a resultant, from the tail of the one vector to the head of the other vector. So that's how you do the addition. Now here if you see this, both the tails of this position vector R1 and R2 are touching at the same point. So here what I have written is vector R12 is equal to R1 minus R2. What it actually means is that if I rearrange this, I'll get vector R1 is equal to vector R12 plus vector R2. So this is, if you see this position vector, the head is touching with the tail of this position vector, distance of separation between these two charges. So this will be the resultant of that. So that is vector R1 plus 2 plus vector R2. So that is what it is. Now here this charge Q1 will again experience some force due to this charge Q3, and which will be in this direction. Let me call this as my vector force on 1 due to the 3. And again you can show a distance of separation between these two charges, which is like this, and I can write this as a vector R13, which is nothing but my vector R1 minus vector R3. So again the same thing like this. So this is the resultant and this is the addition of that, both these things, position vector. Now here if I want to write this forces between these two charges F12 and F13, I can use the Coulomb's law and get an expression for the force. So I can say that the force, the force on charge Q1 due to charge Q2, I can write it as in a vector form, vector f of 1, 2 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught times the product of these two charges, Q1 into Q2. So I can write this Q1 into Q2 upon the distance of separation. I can write the magnitude R12 the square, and a direction unit vector I can show r cap of 1 to 2, that is along this direction. So that's my r cap of 1 2. So I can show here this is my r cap of 1 2. Now same way, let this be the expression 1. In the same way, I can write a force on charge Q1 due to a charge, this time due to this charge, that's the third charge, Q3. I can write it as, again, the vector f of 1 3 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught into the product of these two charges, Q1 into Q3. So I can write this Q1 into Q3 upon distance of separation between these two charges, the square into r cap of 1 3. That will give me a direction, and this is the second. So here in this case, this is my r cap of 1 3. So it's going in this direction. Now, from the principle of superposition, I can say that from the principle of superposition, I can say that the force here, what I know is that the total force on the charge Q1 will be equal to F of 1 2 plus the F of 1 3. That is the total force exerted on this charge Q1 due to the other charges available in the system. That's the principle of superposition says. Now, if I add this equation 1 and equation 2, put it over here, what I'll get is the expression for my force as the force on a charge, the net force on a charge Q1 will be equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught into the product of these two charges by square of the distance of separation between these two charges into the, I can show the direction. So here it's a 1 and 2 plus again 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught product of these two charges. Here this time it will be a Q1 into Q3 by the square of the distance of separation, and this is r cap of 1 3. So that's the total net force on this charge Q1 due to these two charges. So that's the equation. Now, if suppose you have a system, let's say for a system of, I can say for a, let's consider for a system of n charges. In that case, from this principle of superposition, again I can write this as my, vector, the force on the first charge will be equal to the f of 1 2 plus vector f of 1 3 plus the vector f of 1 4 plus the vector f of 1 5, and it will go on continue till the plus vector the last n charge. So that's the addition of all the forces due to all the charges, which I can again rewrite with the help of the Coulomb's law as a vector f1. Vector f of 1 2 is what? It's the same. I can write it as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 by R12 square into the r cap of 1 2. So that's the first force. I can get it another force 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q3 upon the R13 square into the r cap of 1 3. And like that it will go for all the forces over here. So let me show only the last term that you will be getting in this expression, and that term will be 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into the Qn upon the r of 1n square into the r cap of 1n. So like that you will get such a big expression. And here the same expression I can get it into a more short form. I can write this as in a more general way. So here vector f of 1 I can write it equal to, I see 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is a common term, as well the q1 is common over here. So I can take this q1 out from here and 4 pi epsilon naught. So that's the common term. And I can say that, can put a bracket, and I can say it's the summation of I running from 2 to n as q of I upon r of 1 the I square into the r cap of 1 into I. So that's the more general way of writing this, which says a q1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, and here you see q2 upon r12, q3 upon r13 has been put up in this bracket, saying that the summation of this will run from I is equal to 2, okay, I is equal to 2 to n. It starts from 2, and that's the qi ri square into r cap of 1i. So that's the more general way of writing this. So you can put it in a box. So this is how you can calculate it. Now here in this case, for this vector for a 3 charges in a system, it's very easy to calculate, because if you see the force, the F12 is in along this direction, I can say x-axis, and this is the F13 is going in a vertically. So if you apply the Vector's law of parallelogram, you can easily get a resultant force, and that will be, if you add this, and you will get a resultant force over here, something like this. So that will be the resultant force from this after applying the vector addition. So this is how you can calculate a force on any charge in a system due to a group of point charges. So this is an important equation you need to remember. Now here the question says, they consider 3 charges q1, q2, q3, each equal to a charge of q at the vertices of an equilateral triangle of side L. Then what is the force on a charge q with the same sign as q placed at the centroid of the triangle? So that's given in the question. Now here what the question says is that there are 3 charges which are placed at the vertices of an equilateral triangle. So let me draw my equilateral triangle. So this is the equilateral triangle whose the sides are L. All the 3 sides are same, and here at the vertices of this triangle you have a charge of q1 which is equal to q, another charge of q2 which is equal to q, and a charge q3 which is again equal to q. And let me name these vertices of this triangle as A, B, and a C. So these are the placement of the charges. Now we are told to calculate a force on a charge capital Q which is placed at the centroid of the triangle. Now a centroid is a point where the 3 medians of this triangle meets. Now what it means is that if you draw a perpendicular line from this vertex A to the opposite side of this triangle, okay, exactly at the midpoint, so that is a 1 median. So that's the 1 median, and let me call this as a D. Let this point be a D. In the same way, you can also draw another median from the vertex B to the opposite side of this triangle. So that's what. And from here, this vertex C also you can draw 1 median. Now the point at which these 3 medians coincides, we call it as a centroid, and let me name this as a O. So let me name this as a O, where your charge capital Q is placed. And let me say there is a capital Q at the centroid, which is again having a same sign as of the charge Q. So all the charges over here are my like charges. Now we need to calculate a net force on this charge Q due to the other three charges. So here the principle of superposition says that, the force, I can say that the force vector F of the force on charge Q, the total force will be equal to the addition of all the forces Q1 plus the force that will be exerted on a charge capital Q due to the charge Q2 and plus the force on the capital Q due to the small charge Q3. So I can say this as my Q2 and this is Q1. Now here what we're going to do is that applying a Coulomb's law for each of this pair of charges. This is a first pair, second pair and a third pair of charges. Now here what we know is that the charge available on both the here in these cases, but we don't know the distance of separation between this pair of charges. So we need to calculate first the distance of separation between these two charges. Now if you know the centroid theorem, it states that the centroid is at a 2/3 of the distance from the vertex to the line joining the midpoint of the opposite side. So first from that statement, first let's try to calculate what is the length of this AD and then reduce it by a 2/3 so that I get a distance from A to this O. So here what we know is that this is an equilateral triangle. So all the sides over here are my 60 degree, 60 degree and a 60 degree. Now if I'm interested in getting this side A to D, okay, so here in this case, this is my a 60 degree, all the angles are my 60 degree, but I'm interested in getting this length from A to D. So when I bisect this, so I'll get this as my a 30 degree. Now what I do is that I take a cos theta. If you know, the cos theta is nothing but my adjacent upon the hypotenuse. Correct? Now when I consider this as my theta angle, the adjacent side is my AD and the opposite, the hypotenuse, is my AC. So I can say that the cos theta here in this case, cos of 30 will be equal to my, this is the adjacent side, so which is AD by AC. And I'm interested in getting this length AD, so I can rearrange this. I can get this, my AD will be equal to AC times the cos of 30 degree. And what I know that the cos of 30 degree is my square root of 3 by 2. So I can get this AD is equal to, AC is the length of this side, that's my L, and I can write it as my L into cos of 30 is my square root of 3 by a 2. So this is the length what I have got for my AD. Now once I know the AD, okay, I'm interested in getting the A naught, that is the centroid, the distance from this vertex to the centroid, which is again I know that it is the 2/3 of the AD from the theorem of the centroid. It's a 2/3 by AD. And just now I have calculated the AD, so I can substitute this. What I'll get is, after substituting the 2 by 3, AD is nothing but a square root of 3 by 2 into the L. Now the 2 gets cancelled, and what I'm available with is square root of 3 by 3 into the length L. So that's the distance what I'll get it for A naught. So my A naught is equal to this much. So here, this is my A naught is equal to. So this is A naught. So I have got a distance from this vertex to the centroid, okay, where the capital Q is placed. So now from the symmetry, I see this is my equilateral triangle. So from the symmetry, I can also say that the distance from this vertex, that C point to this O, is going to be the same as well for this side from B to O. So by symmetry, I can say that the A0 is equal to the B0 is equal to the C0. So it's it's same for all the things. Now here we can calculate the individual forces over here. So let me calculate the first force that is exerted on this capital Q due to this small q1. So here in this case, I can say that the force, the capital F on the charge Q due to the small q1 is nothing but 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught into the product of the charges, so Q into capital Q. So I can say that Q into, let me say a Q because it's given that the Q1 is equal to Q. So I'll say it's a Q upon the distance of separation between them, that is this. That is square root of 3 by 3, the whole square. So I can write this as my square root of 3 by 3, here that is a L the square into the distance into the, this is the magnitude that I have written. So the direction, will be given in this direction. I can say that the charge Q and Q is your like charges. So this charge will exert some force on this, and that will be in this direction, right? So that's the direction of this. So let me call this as my force vector F1. So that's the first force. So here I can give my direction as a r cap of 1. So let be the direction of this force F1. So here let me call this as my F1. So here let me call this as my F1, F2 and F3. So that's the direction of the force. Now here I can rearrange this expression. What I'll get is I can say it's a 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, and when I square it, this will get 3 3s are 9, it goes on a top, so that will become my 9, and this square root goes, so it will become just 3 into the L square. And here I can say that this is 9, and you have a capital Q into Q along this r cap of 1. Again I can cancel, 3 3s are 9, 3 1s are. So what answer I'll be getting is 3 by 4 pi epsilon naught into capital Q into the small q upon the distance L square into r cap of 1. So that's the unit vector. So that's the force F1 I have got. In the same way, again this is symmetrical. So here this charge at B will experience some force on this charge capital Q, and that will be, again, if you see, this is a charge and this is a charge, like charges. So again the force will be somewhere in this direction, and I can call this as my vector F2. So let this be the vector F2. So here again the vector F2 will be equal to, again I'll get the same answer as this. So I'll write it directly because of the symmetry, the distance of separation is same, and even their charges are given to us same. So I can say that it will be a 3 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q into Q upon the L square into, this time let me show that r cap, it will be along the 2. This is in this direction. So the direction is changed. In the same way, again by symmetry, I can also say that the vector F3 will be equal to 3 by 4 pi epsilon naught into the capital Q into Q upon L square, and there will be a unit vector along this R3. So that is a force that this charge Q will experience due to this third charge, and that will be in this direction, exactly opposite, right? Like charges, so they will repel. Now we have got three forces, F1, F2 and F3. Now here, when you put it back into this, you will get a net force. Now here, if you see these forces, so let this be my vector F3. Now I can apply the parallelogram law of vector addition to these vectors and I can solve this. Okay, if I want to get a total net force, I can just add these vectors F1, F2 and F3. So let me add this vector F2 and F3 first. Okay, so here let me solve this adding this vector F2 and F3 first. Now when I add this vector, let me say when I add this vector F2 plus vector F3, this is my vector F3. Now if you know the resultant of this, one is in this direction, the other force is acting in this direction, correct? So I can apply the parallelogram law, okay, to get the resultant of this. And if you know the vectors addition, you know the resultant, if you want to know the resultant of this two vectors, addition of the two vectors, the resultant vector is given as, you know, the square root of F2 square plus F3 square plus 2 times the F2 into F3 into the theta is the angle between these two vectors. So that's the equation to get the resultant of these two vectors. And here, if you see this, this is my 90 degree, correct? So this is my 90 degree. And what I know is that this entire angle is 60 degree, and if you bisect it, here you will be getting a 30 degree. So 90 plus 30 makes you 120. That means the angle between over here, let me choose this as a O, here it's going to be a 60 degree. All right. And in the same thing is applicable over here. It's 90 degree. This is my 30. If you consider this triangle, okay, the triangle B, O and D, then in this case also this is my 60 degree. And by symmetry I can call that, you know, this angle, the angle between this F3 and F2, the angle is this is my a 120 degree, correct? Now here if I substitute this in this expression, if I solve this resultant of this vectors, if I solve this, what I get is F2 square plus F3 square plus 2 times the F2 into F3, and cos of theta here, cos is my 120 degree. So that's the 120 degree. And again here I can solve this. This is my F2 square plus F3 square plus here the cos of 120 degree is minus 1 by 2. So that minus I can get it here, and I can say 2 F2 into F3. So here this 2 and 2 will get cancelled, because let me write it here, the cos of 120 is your minus 1 by 2. So here what I'll get is the resultant to be of F2 square plus F3 square minus F2 into the F3. Now what I know is that if you see these expressions, the magnitude of these forces, this F2 and F3 are equal. So I can reduce this expression to something like this. I can write it as F2 square plus F3 square, and this is F2 here is equal to the F3 if you look at the magnitude. So I can replace this F2 into F3 as F2 square or F3 square. Now here I can cancel this F2 square and F2 square out from here, and what you will be getting is the square root of F3 square, which is nothing but the resultant here. In this case the R will be equal to the my F3. So that's the magnitude you will be getting, the F3. So here the resultant of this will be in this direction, so exactly at the center. So that's the resultant force, and I can say, let me say that this is my vector R, that is the resultant, and the magnitude of this is equal to the F3. So I can say when I added this when I added F2 plus F3, I got a resultant vector R in this direction. That's the resultant R. And the magnitude of this, if you just write the magnitude of this is equal to the vector F3 or the vector F2. So that's the resultant. So you have got a resultant. Now, after getting the solve with these two vectors F1 and F2, so I've got the resultant vector. Now, I have solved for these two forces. Now, I'm going to apply the law of parallelogram for the force F1 plus the resultant. So now the task is to add, to get this, the total force on the charge Q is to add the vector F1 plus the resultant force that I have got. Now again, if you see the resultant R and vector F1, they are exactly opposite to each other. So here the angle between this vector R and vector F1, I can say that the vector R plus the angle I can say, angle between vector R and the vector F1 is equal to 180 degree. So that's the angle you are getting. And once again, if you substitute over here, okay, then you will be getting the answer for that. And looking at this angle, when you substitute back into this, the resultant of this will get cancelled with each other. Okay, you can just substitute at theta, you can substitute as a 180 degree. So here, let me write it. So here the cos of 180 degree is your -1, and you can solve this. What you will get is that the resultant over here in this case will be vector R minus vector F1. So that will get you to 0. Even if you see that direction, one is going in up, one is facing downward, the magnitude are same. F1 is having a same magnitude as of R1, right? So this is giving you the R1, and if you see the magnitudes, they are same. So if the magnitudes are same, just because they are anti-parallel, they will get cancelled each other, and the resultant force over here will be equal to the 0. So the force exerted on the charge Q here in this case will be the 0. So that's the answer for your question. Now here in this question, we are told to consider the charges Q, Q and minus Q placed at the vertices of an equilateral triangle, and we are told to calculate the force on each of these charges. Now here, this is the figure that shows the placement of the charges at the vertices of an equilateral triangle having a side of length L. Now here, if you see this, the charge Q1 and Q2 is my like charges, they are my positive charges, while the Q3 is my negative charge. Now here, we are interested in getting the force on each of these charges due to the other charge in the system. So let's start with the charge Q1. Now here, if you see, the charge Q1 will interact with the charge Q2 and the Q3. So here, when it interacts with the charge Q2, I have two like charges. So that means there will be a repulsion between these two charges. So a repulsive force will come, and which will be in this direction. There is a repulsion between these two charges, and I can show this as a vector F of 1 due to the charge 2. And if you take this Q1 and Q3 interaction between these two charges, here I have a positive charge and a negative charge. So there will be an attractive force which will be inward, which I can show it something like this. So that will attract each other. So here I can write this as my vector F of the force on 1 due to the third charge. And here again, let me get forces available on this charge Q2. Now in the same way, the charge Q2 will experience some force on it due to this charge Q1, and that will be again a repulsive force. So let me say this vector F of 2 due to the 1. In the same way, this will have the interaction of Q2 and Q3 will show us the attractive force. So attractive force means inward. So I can show it like this. So I can write it as a vector f of 2 due to the third charge. Now in the same way, I can also get a force on the charge q3. I see that there is a attractive force between these two charges. So I can show it along the line joining these centers of these two charges, and which I can say this as the force on the third due to the one charge. In the same way, I can show here also you will see an attractive force, and that's the attractive force. I can write this as my vector, the third force due to the second force. So these are the forces that will be on each of these charges. Now here, if I want a net force, if you look at this Q1, there are two forces exerted on this charge. So if I want to calculate the net force on this charge, what I do is that I apply a parallelogram law of vector addition to this. Now here, when I see this is my one vector, this is the another vector. So I see that, I shift this vector parallel to this vector. I can just shift it, and if I just draw this, because I want to join the tail of this vector to the head of this vector, and if I just shift it, it will be something like this. So that is what I'll get it. So this is the vector what I'll get. And same way, I can complete this by a drawing like. So this is my parallelogram. And then a net force, I can show it in this way, head to the tail of this vector f of 1, 2. So that will give me a resultant force over here. And I can say that, let me call this as my vector f1, force on a 1, charge q1. So this is the vector. Now here, if you see the direction of this vector, okay, the vector f1 will be, if I just shift this parallel, it will be matching with this line, correct? So which is a line BC. So I can say that here the r cap 1, I can write here, this is the unit vector r cap 1 is along the line of BC. Now here, if you see the magnitude, let's look at the magnitude first. Now whenever these charges q1, q2 and q3 will interact with each other, they will have either a force of attraction or else a repulsion. Now I can write the magnitude because I see a symmetry over here, and when you try to, just for example, if you consider the charge q1 and q2 interacting, they are repulsive force. So from the Coulomb's law, if I get the magnitude, so if I just calculate the magnitude, I am saying magnitude of forces, of force of say attraction or repulsion, it can be anything. So here, just because of the symmetry, the force over here between each of this pair, whether it is a q1 and q2 or q1 and q3 or q3 and q2, it will be the same. So here I can writing this as a magnitude of the force as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, the product of these two charges q1 into q2 or whatever it is. So here I can say q into q by the distance of separation here in this case it's a L. So it will be a L square. So this is the magnitude, okay, in the form of magnitude. Now here I'm getting a resultant of these two forces in this direction. So I can say that the force F1 here in this case, I can say that the force vector F1 is equal to the F into the r cap of 1, right? So where r cap of 1, where my r cap of 1 is a unit vector and which is along BC. If I just shift this vector F1, okay, parallel, and it will come over here, and which is nothing but a line of BC. So that it means. Now again, I can also get a resultant force between these two vectors. All right. So here, when I do a parallel shifting of this, it will be something like this. So this is my vector. Now here the tail is connected to the head of the other vector. So this is nothing but my vector f of 2, 3. So here I'll get a resultant force in this way. So let me call this as my vector f of 2. So here once again, if you want to know, here I can write this vector f of 2. Say the vector f of 2 is nothing but by the force, that is the magnitude of the force is same for all the pair of charges. So here this r cap of 2, and I can say this r cap of 2, here it will be r cap of 2. If I just shift this again parallel like this, it will coincide with this line called A and C. So I can say that the r cap of 2 here is my r cap of 2 is my a unit vector along the line AC. So that is the second force. In the same way, here if you try to calculate a net force on this system, here what we know is that this is the equilateral triangle, and the angle between these two is a 60 degree. Correct? It's a 60 degree. And if you want to know the resultant of these two vectors, we have a equation, that is the resultant. If you want to calculate a resultant, R is equal to square root of, that is f of 3. Here this is a magnitude. This is a magnitude of resultant. Magnitude of resultant R is equal to f of 1 3 plus f of 3 1 plus f of 3 2 plus twice the f of 3 1 into f of 3 2 into cos of 60 degree. And the cos of 60 degree is your 1 by 2. So here I can get it. The expression has f of 3 1 plus f of 3 2 plus twice the f 3 1 into f 3 2 divided by 2. So this will get cancelled. Here it's a square. And again, what I know, this is in a magnitude, right? So here I can write this as my f of 3 1 square plus f of 3 2 square plus f 3 1 into f 3 2. I said whatever the pair you work, the force will be, the magnitude of the force of attraction or repulsion is same. So here I can write, say, f 3 1 square, or you can also write it as a f 3 2 square. Now here in this case, I can say that all the forces over here is your magnitudes are same. So I can just write that 3 into f, if I just call it, and this is a square. So I can just take a square over here, saying that the magnitude of the f of 3 1 is equal to the magnitude of the 3 2 is equal to your f. And here I can take the square root out from here. So the resultant that you will be getting is square root of 3 into the f. So that's the resultant vector that you will be getting. So here I can say the resultant, you can draw it like this. This is your resultant force. And let me call this as my F3. The resultant has here as my F3. So I'll get this as my vector F of 3. And again, like this, I can write this vector F of 3 as F of 3 is equal to F, say, magnitude into, let this be a unit vector, which is facing in this direction. So I can say n cap is a unit vector, so of this direction. So these are the forces, here I think this resultant is square root of 3f into the n cap. Yes, so that's the forces that you will get for each of these charges. So these are the forces. And here one interesting thing is that, again, it's not asked in the question, but again, if you try to add this, all this, whatever the resultant you have calculated for these forces, if you just add this, let's try to add this. Now here you see that F1, F2 and F3 is there. So let me add this, all the forces. Here I can say, if I just add this, all the forces, say f of 1 plus vector f of 2 plus vector f of 3. So here let me go with this addition of 1 and 2 vectors first. Okay, so let me see what happens. Now here you see I have a one vector f1, vector f1 and vector f2. So what I do is this, I just shift it, okay, parallel shifting, and when I touch this line, that is vector f2, I see that the angle between this vector f1, this is now my vector f1, and vector f2 is my 60 degree, correct? So again, the angle between this f1 and f2 is my a 60 degree. So what we know is that if you just replace this formula by again 60 degree, so it is again the resultant of these two vectors, what you will be getting is square root of 3 times the f into the n cap, correct? So here what it is actually is, this is your vector f2, correct, and this is your vector f1, and the angle between them is 60 degree. So here the resultant will be like this, and that is equal to square root of 3 into f into n cap. And now once you get the resultant over here, you are adding it with the vector f3, and if you know the vector f3 that we have calculated is square root of 3 into f into the n cap, correct? And here the resultant of this will be something like this, the resultant of these two vectors, which is, I can say, vector f4, let me call this as my vector f4. And now if you see, the magnitudes are same, correct? Magnitudes are same, but the directions are opposite to each other. So that means they will get cancelled with each other, and the resultant of this, all the addition of all these forces will be a 0 again if you try to calculate the net force on the entire system. But when you speak it at the individual forces between these charges, on these charges, it will be a this f into r cap of 1, f into r cap of 2, and this is for the third charge. So that's the solution for this question. Now here again we are given a 3 charges, q1 is equal to 1 millicoulomb, q2 is equal to minus 2 millicoulomb, and q3 is equal to 3 millicoulomb, which are placed on the vertices of an equilateral triangle of side 1 meter. And we are told to calculate the net electric force acting on the charge q1. So the system looks something like this. So this is your equilateral triangle of a side of 1 meter, and on the vertices of this equilateral triangle you have 3 charges placed. One is your q1 is equal to 1 millicoulomb, the charge q2 is your minus 2 millicoulomb, and the third charge given to us is 3 millicoulomb. Now here we are told to calculate a net force on a charge q1 due to these charges q2 and q3. Now here if you see this charge q1 will interact with the charge q2. So here the force that will be experienced by this charge q1 due to q2 will be your attractive force, because this is my positive charge, this is the negative charge, and I can show the force something like this. So this is my attractive force f of 1 due to the charge 2. In the same way, there will be interaction between this charge q1 and q3. So here, these are my like charges. So I'll get a repulsive force which is in this direction. So here, can extend this. I can write f of 1 due to the third charge. Now here, I'm interested in the net electric force. So to get a net electric force, I'm going to apply a law of parallelogram. So here I shift this vector f of 1, 3 parallelly. So here if I shift this, I'll get line something like this, and then I can complete this by drawing this line. I'll get a parallelogram. Now here this vector is nothing but my, I can consider f of 1, 3. Alright, so here if you see this, it's a parallelogram, and I can draw a net force. I can get a resultant vector something like this. So here I'll get this vector f of 1. So this is my net force on a charge q1. So we are interested in getting the magnitude and a direction of this force. Now to get a magnitude for this vector f1, what we know is that the formula, so I'm interested in getting the magnitude of vector f1. So the formula to calculate this magnitude, we have a f is equal to square root of this vector square, that is my magnitude of this f of 1 square plus f of 1 3 square plus twice the f of 1 2 into f of 1 3 the cos of theta. All right. Now here, before calculating this magnitude of this net force, we need to calculate these forces, the magnitude of these forces. So here, let's try to calculate the magnitude of these forces. So what I have is say magnitude of vector f of 1 2 will be equal to, I can write this as my 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught into the product of these charges q1 into q2. So here q1 into q2. So here this negative sign is taken care by the magnitude upon the distance of separation, that is a r square. So we are interested in the magnitude. So that's the formula to calculate. Now here what I know is that if I calculate this, I'll get the magnitude of f of 1 2. I know 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is nothing but the value of k, 9 into 10 raised to 9 into, I can substitute the charges given to me is q1 is what? 1 millicoulomb, so 10 raised to minus 3 into 2 into 10 raised to minus 3 by the 1 meter square. Now here 9 ones are 9, 9 twos are 18, and that I'll get is 18 into 10 raised to 9 minus 3, so that will give me a 3, and here it's a 1. So I can rearrange this as 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 Newton. So I can write it like this. So I have got a magnitude of this f of 1 2. So in the same way, I can also calculate the magnitude of f of 1 3. So here, if I just calculate the magnitude of f of 1 3 will be equal to 9 into 10 raised to 9. Again, it's the same value, and this time it will be the product of these two charges, or let me write f of 1 3 is into q1 into q3 by r square. So the product of q1 into q3, so here I can write 1 into 10 raised to minus 3 into 3 into 10 raised to 3 millicoulomb, and again 1 the square. So here you will be getting 9 ones are 9 and 9 threes are 27. 27 into 10 raised to 3, and which I can again rewrite this as 2.7 into 10 raised to 4 Newton. So I have got a magnitude for both the forces, so which I can put it here. So if I put it here in this, what I'll get is f of 1 2. I can write this as a 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 the square, plus I can say 2.7 into 10 raised to 4 the square, plus 2 times the 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 and 2.7 into 10 raised to 4 into the cos theta. So here you want the theta. The theta is the angle between these two vectors f of 1 2 and f of 1 3. Now here if you see the theta over here, what I know, this is the 60 degree. Yes, this is the angle having a 60 degree. Now I'm interested in this angle. I'm interested in the angle between vector f of 1 2 and a vector f of 1 3. If this is 60, then this will be your 120 degree. So here I can say that it will be of cos of 120 degree, and which is equal to minus half. So here if you solve this, you will be getting 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 square plus 2.7 into 10 raised to 4 square plus, so here this will be a minus, because cos of 120 is minus 1 by 2. So that will give me the answer to be of 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 into 2.7 into 10 raised to 4. Because this 2 will get cancelled with this. Here the cos of 120 is minus 1 by 2. So 2 will get cancelled with this. And here if you solve this, what you will be getting, the magnitude of this answer is 2.85 into 10 raised to 4 Newton. So that's the magnitude of this vector F1, or here I'll say this is my F1. So you have calculated the magnitude of this F1. Now what about the direction of this vector F1? So to calculate a direction of this vector F1, we have another formula, that is, I'll write it here. So that formula is your tan of alpha. I'll write here. So here this is tan of alpha, which is equal to the magnitude of this f of 13 into sine of theta. Again the theta is the angle between these two vectors, upon f of 12 plus f of 13 into cos of theta. So where alpha is the angle, where alpha is the angle between this, if I want to show this, I can show this. The alpha is the angle between the resultant vector that you have got, vector F1, and it's an angle between vector F1 and the vector f of 12. So that's the angle. So here I can get a T10 alpha has a, if I just solve this tan alpha, so what I know is tan alpha is nothing but my f of 13, which I have got is 2.7 into 10 raised to 4, multiply by sine of theta. Theta is again your 120 degree, divided by the f of 12, which is my this value 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 and 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 plus 2.7 into 10 raised to 4 into this time cos of 120 degree. Now the value for sine of 120 degree is my square root of 3 by 2. So it's the square root of 3 by 2, and if you substitute this, what you will get is 2.7 into 10 raised to 4 into square root of 3 by 2 by 1.8 into 10 raised to 4. Here again this will be a minus 2.7 into 10 raised to 4 by 2. And if you solve this, the answer that you will be getting is 5.22 tan alpha. And we are interested in the alpha, so the alpha can be getting as tan inverse of this value 5.22, and that will give you to answer to be of 79. So here this answer what you will be getting is 79.2 degrees. So that's the alpha. So here what we have calculated is the angle between this. So I can say that the net electric force on the charge Q1 is of 1.8 into 10 raised to 4 newtons at an angle of 79.2 with a line joining from Q1 to Q2. So that's the answer for this question. Now what you take home today from this session is that if you have a system consisting of a multiple charges, then the forces exerted by each pair of these charges are not affected due to the presence of the other charge available in the system. And here if you want to calculate the net force on any charge, then it's just the vector sum of all the forces exerted on that charge due to all the other charges. So these are the few points that you need to remember from this session. So thank you very much.